Steve, episode 45 of the Broadway block. Big free agency happening. Gagorgiev trade. What are you liking that we're doing? What do you think we need to do in free agency? And where are we going this year?
Well, we called it Gorgiev to Colorado. And for some picks, you can't be mad at it. He had to move on eventually anyway. So a lot of people are indifferent about it. I think that,
I'm happy for him. Give him the opportunity.
Absolutely. He was never going to get it here. And it's just that Talbot run to, keep it moving type of thing. And always sort of getting something for him, I think, is important too. And maximizing our return on that was key. So the market certainly grew for him. And we talked about what we thought was going to happen. I think we hit it right on the head. But as far as the rest of free agency is concerned, apparently we're getting, Kane, we're going to get Malkin, we're going to get McDavid. We're just going to get everybody. And that's our free agency plan at the moment. I haven't seen
in between 5 and 6 mil. Remember, they're gonna
Right.
come to the Rangers and play for 5 to 6 mil.
I haven't seen anything that's even been within the realm of possibility. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days.
How do
As
you
far
feel about the Kadri rumor heating up?
Well, I was just going to say, as far as the need, the second line center is definitely the need. So we'll see what happens. There's been talk about Andrew Cobb maybe wanting to test free agency. I know Brian Stroman mentioned wanting to resume being a Ranger, but there's a lot of people that we are looking to shore up. And Kadri, although, if it was NHL 22 and I'm just like, swapping things out, I'm like, yeah, Kadri would make us better. But yeah, realistically speaking,
he's in his 30s. He had that injury to his thumb. Like, is his best hockey in front of him, or is his best hockey? And I heard that he wants like a finishing contract, like wherever he goes. So I don't see that happening for us unless we get some money off the books. But
yeah, maybe the Avs saw something there that they wanted, or maybe he wants to test that free agency. But I don't necessarily want to speak to his career, his contract, but it's just one of those situations that doesn't wrong time. It's a good fit, but maybe a year or two ago, it's just not the right timing as far as
it's kind of like Malkin. Like if he's willing to walk on the Pens for like, I hear it's the contract details, like, the length of the contract. So like, is he really going to come to the Rangers and us be able to pay him what he wants to be paid? And everybody who plays fantasy hockey knows that guy's injured like more than he's playing. So it's like, how much good hockey does he have in front of him left?
It might come down to getting burned on that last year of term to be in a win now situation. And you got to think like maybe Drury feels some pressure that we're not really sensing, in that like the person that he's replacing was just removed from their duties after 2 years of really sticking to the plan. So
I have a different theory that maybe he's working on someone that's not in the headlines that we like haven't thought of. Like, when the trade rumors were coming up at like mid-season, nobody was mentioning Cobb. Like, heard Tyler Mott a little bit here and there, but like not like that he was going to go out and get him. So I'm expecting Chris Drury to do the Chris Drury thing and get somebody that no one's like even had on their radar. Like a Scheifele or some kind of like center that's unhappy somewhere that wants to just, come play meaningful hockey.
Here's the other thing. Do we have to change much? I would be really shocked if Strome stays on the team. If he doesn't, it means we have to address it. And that would mean either Kopp signs or walks. Then if he walks, then we really have to address it. I don't know if we really do anything. And we don't really have the money to do anything. And it might come down to being one of those things where like this just was the wrong offseason, sort of add things to it. And I feel
that's
like
where you got the young guys, where I think that's Drury's backup plan. Like I think he's going to keep throwing darts till one sticks, where he could have a trade happen or something, or some free agent that wants to come. But I think his backup plan is, if all else fails, Filipino, number 2 center.
Yeah, I mean the kids definitely showed some growth. I wonder if that's, over the long season, over the course of a year, what that would kind of play out to be for a season of Heedle playing number 2 center. We haven't really seen him play any more than 17 minutes a game, so that remains to be seen. But in my opinion, we don't really have to do much to at least be competitive. If we can get somebody like, somebody messaged me today actually that's not a big hockey fan, and like, just explain Malkin to me. I was like, well, listen, history is a little bit different if Malkin's not a Penguin. Let's put it that way. It's a huge part of their success, and he still has some tread on his tires. Do I want to see him in a Rangers uniform? All personal bias aside, all the wars that these two teams have been into over the years, if it makes sense, it makes sense. I mean, $5 million is basically, asking too much. I feel like, being that we have around 9 to play with, we still have the Kako contract to think about. We still have a backup goalie situation to think about. But let's just say we spent $5 million. Is that really going to make him happy? But you have to think too, is he looking for another run late in his career where a lot of
Is
people
he
are,
looking to get paid? And like, I'm okay with my 3. Like, I want to get paid some bucks, and
right. Are you trying to be a part of a really competitive team and go to that? I think any player late in their career would say, yeah. Malkin, being that he's won several times, so I think he brings.
What's strange to me is like, if that's where I think it's more about the money with Malkin, because when you stay with the Pens were competitive last year, they locked up Ricard Raquel. You got Crosby back still, like, like they're still trusty Rusty, like, they still got things going on back there. Where would you really want to go to, like, a Sabres for 7 years at 6.5, like, and finish your career? Like, I don't know. We don't know what that guy's thinking. So
Well, I mean, how long have you kept the job for? This guy's been on the same exact team for his whole career. This is the first
might
time
be a
he's ever
switch up change kind of thing.
It might be time, and we don't know those things. I'm sure these are all things that'll come out later. And from an organizational standpoint, if you got the Penguins saying that, you got Letang and Crosby as like these people that we have to take care of, he might be the odd man out and not really being shown that adoration. And on the Rangers, he would not only fill a need, but I feel like a lot of people who were in Malkin's position would go to another team and be in a position where they would be expected to do a little bit too much, and maybe that chemistry isn't there, albeit that he doesn't play on a line with Crosby all the time, but that power play chemistry that they have to there, I feel like he would slot in for us at either that Strome position, holding a really pivotal part on that power play. You got to think Panarin with Malkin and Mika Zibanejad. That would be crazy. Or he starts into that second power play role where he sort of leads that group. And
Is
for
he
us,
good enough to be a second center, like, and still stay a second center for a while? Because, like, we're looking to fill a gap and a need, not just for like 1 or 2 years. You mentioned it last episode about, the young guys have their window, the vets have their window, and they come together, and then boom, the young guys became the vets, and that's the second window. Like, for me, I'm like, are we really just going to fill in a guy for there? Or are we trying to get somebody that, like, can build chemistry with these younger guys, still be almost a vet, like kind of in an in-between contract kind of thing, and fill that void for that second center for 3 or 4 years?
that's where I would look for like a Trocheck, somebody that's a vet-esque player, like you said, that can sort of fit into the now and into the future. I guess it really, like I mentioned, sort of depends on how much pressure does Drury feel to really be in a win now. Does he feel pressure to replicate the results of this season? Does he feel pressure?
I don't think he does, because we said at the beginning of the season, when we talked expectations in our beginning videos, we were like, well, it'd be great to make the playoffs. I think we're at that step now. So obviously the Eastern Conference Finals wasn't, in anybody's sights until season got rolling. We saw how good Igor was. So it's like, are we just going to try to put up another team to just kind of let the young guys develop? I don't want to lose these good years of, like, Mika and Kreids up there. They're getting up there. So we just have to kind of, I would like a Scheifele Trocheck with someone at the beginning, which it's funny. The Trocheck has like calmed down with all these hot names being out there, like Kane and everything like that. And I'm like, I I just want somebody, that's going to bridge the gap till one of these young guys can take that second line center, and then maybe they become a third line center, and they're still part of the team, but they're not getting as many minutes as they once were.
Yeah, and I think that's the question now too. So we have a lot of organizational depth in places that are going to sort of fill into those lineup spots. Like you said, having maybe somebody that leads the charge for now, that sort of takes a backseat role as we get moving. Maybe a Malkin fits into that scheme. Again, I think for me, it's term for Malkin. It has to be money related a little bit, because he's not just going to take $2-3 million to play anywhere. So
He would have done that and stayed with the Pens if that was the case.
5.6 for 4 years is, roughly speaking, $21 million. It's what he would have made $7 million over the course of 3 years. So that maybe that extra year of term really gets him to stick around. That's my prediction if we sign him. If I'm honest, I think he facilitates a need for us. I think he, personal bias aside, and dirty play, maybe whatever you want to call it, I think he would actually be a really productive Ranger. The question is, does Drury feel pressure to be productive now? Do we just sort of use that money to sign up? I think Kakko's contract is going to be a really big distinction as far as what we have.
What would you give Kakko if you were, based on his performance, shorter seasons? Like, do you give him the benefit of the doubt, or are you just kind of like, well, you got to fit, if you want to be in New York, you got to fit under the books. This is what it is. We'll keep developing you, but you're not, we're not looking at you like you're Alexis Lafreniere per se.
It's pay me now or pay me later type of thing. You don't want to upset the guy with a low ball offer. Obviously, he made those leaps, but I think we're actually blessed in hindsight that his point production wasn't really up to snuff, because when you go down the line of salary arbitration, they're going to be comparing your production to other players of your stature when it comes down to getting you paid. So
when you were drafted, right?
I'm sorry?
Does that in arbitration, do they what position, like when you were drafted, like you were the second pick in the draft, does that factor into arbitration?
I know in the media it does, but I'm not quite sure.
I don't think it does in NHL
salary arbitration, because what they bring up are the Patrick Laines to give us an accurate sort of, or I guess an inaccurate comparison. But I think he's already sort of going to be scorned by the Hughes getting that long-term contract, that what could have been type of thing. There's already been a lot of talk about Quinn stunting his growth and all this other extra stuff. So I feel like for Kakko, he gets a bridge deal, right? He's not going to get a long-term contract right now until money gets off of the books, and then we can talk about a longer-term contract for him. But it really doesn't get easier down the road to sign him to a longer-term contract either. So part of me feels like he doesn't.
Yeah, then Keandre is going to have to get paid. Igor is going to be off that like friendly contracts per se, and
this might not be the best jersey to have moving forward.
You might be getting your JT Miller jersey back out.
Well, listen, man. I think a 99-point player would be welcomed, but again, it doesn't look in the cards. But let's just say that we sign Kakko, right? We have to bridge him, right? What are we comfortable spending? I mean, it has to be between $2 to $4 million. It can't break the bank. I think 4 years at
2.9 the first year, it works up to 3.5, 3.7 range.
Point, that it's kind of insulting, you know what I mean? So it has to be shorter term, in my opinion, and it has to be a bigger number, at least to get the attraction there. So
2 years, 4.1 or something like that.
Something like that to at least show the commitment of like, look, we think highly enough of you. I think you insult him if you go the other way and go, lower annual ABV and longer term.
I got a question. Do you think all these signings like Kayak and Julian Gauthier at like friendly 800Ks, is he just trying to get them on the books to trade them?
That's the only thing that makes sense. There's nothing else that makes sense, because
and then Patrick Nemeth, the buyout didn't happen today. Did you see that?
No, there's something about a second window, and there's something about potentially burying this contract in the AHL. for whatever reason. I mean, it might be longer term to deal with a buyout, whereas the shorter term ramifications of maybe you get less immediate relief back, but there's less long term ramifications of putting him in the AHL. So it looks as though that's the road they're going to go down. And I mean, I can't for Patrick Nemeth, that is specifically for Hayek. I mean, it can't
He's
be
just the
that.
seventh defenseman there, like
Yeah,
in case
it
injury,
can't be.
like like kind of thing.
It can't be that we feel, like we're holding on to value or something. You know what I mean? Like we've cut ties with folks that we have more of an endearment towards. So I don't know what the affinity is for Hayek, and I really hope we can cut that out because
I
it
gotta
is
think
fun.
it's gotta be a trade. I just keep seeing these guys that are like, Julian Gauthier at the beginning of the thing was like, I want to walk, like I want to play more, and then boom, next week he's getting an 800K to stay, and I'm like, all right, is like Drury being like, sign this deal, and we'll get you to somewhere where you want to be, but for right now,
Maybe, man, but it's also, I think, relevant to our cap situation that you almost do need guys that maybe they're not the greatest, maybe they're not even serviceable, but you need guys that you can ice for league minimum, because if you look at what we look like without getting hurt, it isn't pretty. And you add 3 or 4 injuries to that list, and it gets to that situation we were in last year where our bottom six is just full of AHL players, and we're going, we'll give us a break. We're half AHL players, but it's by design when you set up your team to not really be, in place to deal with that threat. So, um,
also
I
I think Cop's gonna walk. I heard today. I know you were saying that maybe we have an offer for him, but I heard that it just peaked out, like where he was in free agency is just going to be too high for us.
oh, it said something about him wanting some long term, and
He wants
that's
long term at like 6.5, and I just
yeah.
I don't
And
want to take a thing out of Shark Tank, but for that reason I'm out. But
well, like you have to think the people that want, I don't know how many times I've said this episode, I'm so sorry, that anyone who comes to this team wants to win, right? You can't come to this team and be here forever. Like we have the people that are going to be here forever. Anyone
talk
that,
to Zuccarello about that one.
yeah, buddy, sorry, but you got to cut ties with some of these guys, and the guys that we're committed to are committed to long term, like Adam Fox and Mika Zibanejad. That's just the people that are on contract, the people that are due the contracts that we know are part of the core moving forward, and Igor and Laugh and Miller and all these guys that are going to be due huge raises when they're off the contracts they are on now. But the core is set, and to be along for the ride is one thing, but to be here forever is that might be the deal breaker. And I'm for what it's
Well,
worth.
when you put in your time, your blood and sweat, you're like you had
Yeah.
that good winning feeling. You're like, I want to be here. Like I want to be the team that raises the cup.
Yep,
But
and
sometimes
hopefully he
you're
gets
just a stepping stone in the big
and hopefully he
picture.
gets his contract. And for what it's worth, I thank Cop for all of the. I mean, I was just looking down all the videos saved from highlight reel goals, and I mean from the natural hat trick, and just the all the you and I are at the Garden, and I'm like, Cop's about to blow the roof off this place, and what do you know, springs the puck free, and we're tied 2-2 and going into a game 7 situation. So or overtime game 7 situation. It's just a cool piece, I think, to the puzzle. I think he'll go be that somewhere else, and
Do
wish
we
him the best
say
of
he's
luck.
like a Tanner Glass during that like run? Like I know your dad said that on the train that like he remembers that's why he loves like Tanner Glass like
Sure.
that.
Sure. I think obviously Cop plays a much different style than a Glass, but when you say a Glass, I think for anyone listening, it's those guys that you sort of stick in you like a splinter, and they stay there for a while, even after the fact that they're gone.
You
And
remember what they did when it mattered.
I would say the deadline boys, man. Mott, Vetrano, Cop. I'll remember that tandem for a minute, but
I'm
hopefully.
more excited after this free agencies for what's going to happen at the trade deadline mid-season, what Drury's going to whip up wherever we're at.
Yeah, that's another thing too, because
Then teams
once
are
you
willing to
open up
let go of
that
people, and you know
once
where you're going.
once you open up that can of worms, man, it's you don't want to get worse every year, right? So
Yeah.
you start to make that assumption that each and every time we're going to try to get over the hump and we're going to try to make that little extra move. And this is, I think, maybe the beginning of the era of nobody was really looking forward to the NHL draft if you're a Rangers fan the other night, minus a few people that were speculating some trades like us. But this might be
Side note, what do you think of the Habs not taking that guy they told that they were like, yeah, we're gonna draft you, and then
Oh, I didn't know that they told him that. But
then he's on the Kraken.
well, it would be like if we didn't draft Lafreniere, right? And then we didn't pick you know, Byfield, right? And then we don't pick Stützle, and then or not we rather. And you're going down, you're like, when is Laff gonna get picked, right? If imagine if Laff got picked fourth overall, the Rangers don't draft him, the Kings don't draft him, and everybody just snubs him. Yeah, we might be looking at a scorned guy. Did you see the way he looked at the bench? He just they asked him, we're like, were you staring at the bench? He's like, yeah, I don't want to make him pay for it. I want to remember the teams like the Arizona Coyotes that passed on me that didn't. And then you got to think too, what it shows you to be completely unprepared in that moment that you don't. I mean, if you're Arizona, that's what you need right now. You need a Shane Wright. You need some thing to hold on to, some name to attach yourself to. But they don't have that. And
you're not big on Clayton Keller?
Well, listen, I'm sorry. Clayton Keller's great. Like, here's the thing. You need they picked the defenseman, whatever. They picked the best guy available. I don't give a fuck who they picked. Do you know who they picked? No, nobody knows who they picked because they didn't pick Shane Wright. And I'm sorry, like I could be wrong.
They can't even pick a stadium location, Steve.
I could be wrong long term, but I think the Kraken end up with the sweeter end of the deal. Now they got Matty Beniers as well as some really good pieces to build around. And maybe Shane Wright doesn't, propel off to be this great player. But I think if you want to save this franchise out of the depths of surely being another last place or close to it season, the Arizona Coyotes should have slammed the Shane Wright button.
Another questionable one in the draft was the Islanders trading, I think it was either the 13th or 16th pick for Romanov. Like, okay, we're in like a win now situation. I didn't know that you just fired your coach and now it's a win now kind of situation, but that's how that team's built. Like, I've heard them with rumors of Johnny Gaudreau and stuff. He had a great season, but I just don't see them like ready to win now. Like, it's almost like at the point where 2017 Rangers, where it's like, yeah, you got a lot of great talent, but it's just not the team that's going to do it.
The Isles bounce back, in my opinion, but you're right about that trade. It's very, very weird to trade Devon Taves, right? You get 2 second-round draft picks for it, and then you trade a 13th overall first, which I would say in the tier of first-round draft picks, albeit not a top 3 overall pick. But 13 is not bad, and especially in this draft, there were some names that had.
Plus, they have a lot of veterans, so it's like, where's the prospects coming up from? Like, where's the guys that are gonna replace these guys that have come out? Like, obviously not Barzell, but like, it just
very interesting to think that that's the order of operations there, and then you got teams like the Blackhawks trading I think it was 7th overall for Seth Jones, and then they end up trading to get back into the same spot. They get into 6th overall.
But not blowing the lid off Kane and Taves, like if you're starting a rebuild, don't you show your most valuable asset and be like, this is what I got, like right before draft night. Like, who wants it?
And why you don't hold on to DeBrincat? He's a
young guy, like
40-goal sniper, proven finisher, and you likely don't need Kane by his side and that's going to be a fun thing to watch too. Him moving over to Ottawa. They got Cam Talbot coming over now. Like, is Ottawa good all of a sudden? That was a poll
they blew out Matt Murray to go to Toronto. Did you see that?
And Matt Murray is now in
for future considerations.
And you know what? Hats off to Toronto. I think it's the commitment is astonishing to the bit of only having bad proven bad. Like we're not talking about like we don't know if they're bad goalies. Like proven bad goalies is just so funny to watch. So another year for the Toronto Maple Leafs to
My
look forward to
my
scoring
last
6
question.
goals and giving up 5, and then going into the playoffs and wondering why they can't win a fucking series.
My last question for you today is: do you think more coaches get passed around in the NHL, or do you think more goalies get passed around in the NHL?
That's a good question.
That's
I think
I almost threw it up on the Twitter to just see what everybody thought of that, but
I think coaches is a carousel where even guys that have been head coaches will become either assistants or defensive coaches, etc. Where some of these goalies they fall off the face of the planet and you never hear from them again. But in that same right, there's also a constant wave of younger heads that the Hussos of the world and the Binningtons that just kind of come out of nowhere that you don't expect to become staples. So I feel like that the goalie tandem is the most often used bunch, but no
I
no
feel
job
like
for
if you were
Quinn
put it,
just yet.
what were you saying?
No job for Quinn just yet. As the frequently used goalie coaches continue, or NHL coaches continues, but
I feel like if you were put into a coma and then woken up 5 years later, you'd be like, Victor Husso plays for this person now, like he plays
yeah.
for the Kings, like that's just how it is.
Yeah, and it's actually, I guess, a testament to what you're saying about Talbot is still a topical name. I mean, Rontos, these are still household names. So I mean, I guess
That still
hats
gets
off to
starting
Benny
time.
Allaire. I'm sorry.
That still gets starting time places.
Yeah, and I think the argument's sort of been there that goalies have a really like long tier list where there's not a lot of number one overall centers that get ice time that aren't really a number one guy. Let certain franchises aside, but goalies really seem to have that elite tier, that mid tier, and this you don't really deserve to be making more than $3 million a year tier. But speaking of which, good luck Gorgiev, and good luck Avalanche.
Good luck, Avs. Let's go Drury in free agency. I know he's going to whip something up. Steve, thank you for your time.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Good luck. Let's
It's going quick this summer too. I've been watching baseball, just like counting down the days to hockey. I think we're in the 80s now.
Yeah, it's not too long. I think free agency is going to be fun to watch, but after that, it drops off starkly with how much entertainment we have. So we'll get this over with and get a couple months left to go over the season. But barring any exciting news, we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, sounds good, Steve.
Later, brother.